Welcome everyone to Doodle to Doing. I'm your host, Karen Light, Creative Executive Function Coach and Doodle Empress at How Doodle. This Doodlecast is designed to be interactive, so please grab something to doodle on and doodle with, be as simple or as fancy as you like, and join us in this conversation. Today, we're going to talk about everyone's favorite friend, procrastination. When is it harmful? Can it even be helpful? And how do we expect it and move with it? Helping me doodle and dive into this topic today are three amazing creatives, Hase, Michelle Manassah, and Nikki Smith. Welcome, ladies. Hello. Good to see you. So I would love for each of you just to introduce yourselves briefly and the kind of creative that you are.
Hey, hi everyone, I'm Kat. I'm a creativity coach. So I work with facilitators to help design creative and playful learning environments for adults. And in my spare time, I do all sorts of kind of art and creative craft things for myself. So it spans both parts of my world.
I am Michelle Manasseh, and I spent 20 years helping small production companies and Fortune 500 broadcasters bring really big ideas to life on TV screens all over the world. Now I work as an executive coach, and I use all of that experience of working in really high stress, high ego, highly creative environments to help people work smarter, not harder, and help them be able to pull their dreams into focus.
And my name is Nikki Smith, and I am a creative. My creativity runs the gamut from art, painting, dancing, drama, and most currently my role as a writer. I'm currently a grant writer for arts education organizations, as well as Arizona's Valley of the Sun United Way.
Woohoo. Awesome. Thanks so much, ladies. So good to be with you here. So what we're going to do is dive straight in with a doodle. Let's just get into it for a minute. Everybody ready?
Yep.
All right. So your quick prompt here is to doodle procrastination as some kind of creature. Whatever that looks like to you, just a really quick minute down and dirty doodle. Procrastination is some kind of creature or monster.
I always just think of procrastination as like a blanket over my head that kind of like makes me all, just immobile and not want to do much.
Mine's just a lot of chaos.
Ah! Kind of looks like a rabbit.
It does look like a rabbit. I think that's just my daughter draws a lot of bunnies, and I think that was just where my brain went. Faceless. It's
Ooh, I
just
feel like that's a really interesting thing. We might have to think about why the rabbit image popped up.
Yep.
Oh, I'm curious. Okay, we're gonna look more at these, so we might be coming back to that.
It's a slightly fluffy, welcoming, like, come play with me. Friendly.
Yours is a little devious, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Mine is let's see, pop it up here. It's down at the bottom because I feel like it kind of like slithers along like under my feet, and it's like, look at this, look at this, look at this. So lots of eyes, but also it kind of like is a little like devious like yours, Kat. Like You know, you never suddenly it's just upon you and you didn't know where it came from. Just kind of slithered under my feet somehow. When you think of your monster of procrastination or you're a creature of procrastination, what comes up for you in terms of your perceptions of that word? Like, what is it about it that you think about when I say that word procrastination?
I almost feel like I'm being haunted by whatever task I'm supposed to be doing,
Mm.
but procrastination is just like, no, not we don't want to do that right now. Don't do it. Like everything in me knows I should be doing it,
Mhm.
but everything in me is resisting, like, we're not doing that. We're gonna
Ooh.
we're gonna do something that gives you instant gratification. Like,
Ah. Okay, I'm starting a list while we're talking because there's interesting things that are coming up. I'll share them back after each person speaks. All right. Yes. I love that word, haunting.
So I think about procrastination two different ways. One, I think about it that it's marinating. It's like expansive and curious and full of desire, and it needs that time and space. Then the other way I think about it is more like ruminating and ignoring. So something that feels really tight or closed off and feels, I don't know, it's kind of like guilty or overly busy and really out of alignment. And I think that
Mm,
the way that I think about procrastination is really in those sort of two separate buckets.
mhm,
And it's a little frustrating to have that one word apply to both. But to me, when I can kind of get them separate, um, I see where the sort of fundamentals exist in both of them. And
mm,
oftentimes I think that procrastination is telling me I need more of something. And so it's about getting curious about what that is. So sometimes it's like, I need more time and space to be creative. Sometimes I just need more answers about something that I'm waiting for. And sometimes I just really need more confidence to do something that's really hard. So, in that space of like the ruminating and ignoring, I need to find some inner reserves, or I just need to figure out what the next step is. Um,
mhm.
those are some of the things that show up for me, kind of across those two different categories.
Ooh, lots of good words in there too. I just made some more on my list. What words and thoughts and ideas come up for you, Kat, around procrastination?
In the first one for me is like it's something that should be avoided. Like I think
Mhm,
that's it gets drilled into us, but actually there's a bit of like, well, what is procrastination trying to tell us?
mhm,
Like about the energy, or is that the unknown, or is it like don't do it at all, or like what is the message that procrastination is trying to give us?
mm. Okay. So my list, as you guys were talking, just really encompasses so much around this word. Shoulds, hauntings, instant gratification, needs, ruminations, guilty, unaligned, clarity, avoidance, messages. Ooh, that's really awesome. Okay. So before we dive deeper into this, I want us to approach it with some levity and some curiosity. So y'all know I'm going to share it with you, right? The spirit of a doodle. So let's open that up and share that. Okay, so my question for you ladies, with all that's coming up around this idea of procrastination, which idea, looking at this list here, jumps out to you as maybe a helpful approach or a useful thought?
let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. Why'd you pick that one?
Um, I don't know. I was the most curious about what's going to transpire from us unpacking this word.
Mm-hmm.
Room for surprise is the one I picked.
Yeah. What makes you pick that one?
I mean, I think that in the space between marinating and ruminating around procrastination, there's so much um, available to be curious about, and being able to stay flexible for what those surprises might be is really where I think the
Mm.
magic can happen, to be able to utilize procrastination more like a tool than something that you're trying to get rid of.
Mm-hmm. I love how these things, those two pieces really go together well, right? Like they play together well. Like be more in the unfolding. I think sometimes um having too like strict of an idea of what has to happen can cause like procrastination or us to feel unmotivated. So as we see what happens, and also like while we're seeing what happens, those surprises can be super juicy. Like they can fill our buckets back up, right? Give us some new ideas or new inspiration. And often I think we're a little depleted when it comes to that inspiration and that juice. So loving how those play together. Kat, are you in line with either of those or do you have a different one?
Different one.
Yeah.
So I've got feel the flow, because I feel like when I'm procrastinating, I often try and resist it. And what happens is actually I just procrastinate more, and it's because I'm fighting against it. So I'm kind of curious about what would happen if I felt the flow of procrastination and went with it, and it's useful for me instead.
I love that, how you just framed that, because it totally went in a different direction than I thought it was going to when you said that. Like how you feel the flow of procrastination. Like my brain just went, "Wah, the flow of procrastination. That's intriguing." But I love that, makes me think about procrastination. Like, what if we thought of it as part of the flow? Like in general, like this is, if we're expecting it, if it's, you know, more of our friend than our foe in this whole process. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do another doodle, and we're gonna unpack some of this a little bit more. So I'm gonna invite you to do this on top of your little friend that you already doodled. I want you to give it some sort of bag or suitcase or whatever you think of when it comes to like something it is carrying, a beautiful handbag, whatever comes up for you. And think about what's inside that handbag that procrastination is carrying for you. What shows up inside the bag? So give it some sort of bag and doodle what's inside that bag. Oh, I love what comes up. All right, while y'all are finishing up, I'm gonna talk about mine for a minute because I love what comes up for me. So I was like, how is this slithery thing gonna carry anything? And it's got balloons that which surprised me because I tend to think of balloons as like a really happy thing. But it kind of made me feel like it's like floating these ideas above my head that aren't helpful. And I love that they're balloons because they're easily popped, right? But it's kind of like it gets underfoot and floats these unhelpful ideas above my head, and I get like smashed between the two things. But it's not like impenetrable. So I like that. The balloons really surprised me. You guys see anything else?
It's so clever because it reminds me, like, if you really want to step on procrastination and pull the balloons with the ideas down and pop them, that's what it makes me think of.
I love that. So they're not like, yeah, they're not like inaccessible. Like those ideas are like in your reach to do something about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also feel like they're probably plentiful. Like there's only 3 there, but I feel like that, I don't know, there's something about them that feels like that there can be more and they can be sort of infinite.
Yeah, maybe there could be way more fun balloons. Like I was thinking like a whip, an endless to-do list, and like lazy, right? Like, but you know, there could be fun balloons that, or maybe they're just up here off the page and I just don't see them yet. All the plenty that these are like hiding. Ooh, that's fun. Oh, okay. Let's see what's coming up for you all.
I was going to have a sledge. But then I stopped myself because you said it had to be carrying something. So my brain changed its mind and did a big backpack. It's quite heavy, but it's all the things that I do when I'm procrastinating. So we've got my phone, like kind of art, pens and pencils and paintbrushes, lots of ideas of stuff, just going and having a nap. And then, like you were saying, endless to-do list. So like, here's all the stuff I could do while I'm sitting at my desk just instead. Here's all the chores I should be doing around the house. Can't be bothered to do, so I'll procrastinate on them as well. And here's the actual list of things I'd rather be doing.
You're like, I feel like a theme that's really coming out of yours that is really important to speak to. Sometimes procrastination looks like productivity, or sometimes it looks like things we enjoy. And that's really, I think that's why I feel like it's sneaky for me, because I have that too. Like, all the ideas sometimes really pull me off like the thing and some part of me wants to focus on, but another part of me is feeling fear around, or like Michelle said, I haven't broken it down. I don't know what that next step is. Like, there's a thing that's keeping me, and all this over here looks easier. So I'm like, yeah. So I'm taking that comes up for you too. Anybody else here feel that comes up for them? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's a really important thing to unpack, because I don't know, I feel like the pervasive message is just like, you're not doing anything. Like, you're just sitting staring at a wall. And that's what procrastination looks like. I don't think that's true, right?
No, it's doing anything but the thing you said you were going to do.
Good definition. I like that.
I'll go next. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So it's a little hard to see because I have it underneath here, but this is the bag that's sort of like hanging off my procrastination bunny, and this is a brain that's just all a little kind of crazy inside there, with this sort of like overthinking, lots of thinking that seems to happen around procrastination.
Ooh, can you keep it up for a few? Do you mind if
Sure.
we look at it?
No, not at all.
Can you like go up a
and
little bit there? Yeah, yeah. A couple things are interesting to me. Like, I feel like even your bag is casting a shadow. Like,
Mhm.
that's very interesting. And it's like because it looks like it's right around the bunny's face to me. So it looks like it would block its view, or like keep it from speaking
Yeah.
even, or keeping that expression clamped down somehow. And then when I look at it like that, it looks like there's all this like creative energy just bursting to get out, but it's like held back by this thing somehow. And the ears almost look like antennas, like are searching for input. What comes up for you guys when you look at it?
Yeah, I definitely feel like the handle of the bag is like trying to hold it all in. It's almost like you may not leave, you may stay.
Yeah, like trying to contain all the energy and all the ideas and all the activity. And then the brain is like, zzz.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Because I think that it is a stifling feeling, right? Procrastination. I don't know. That's one of, or like you said, Nikki, haunting, like that blanket vision. Like, it can really feel like it puts a cap on that buzzing creativity. What other messages have come up for you all around procrastination that you've been thinking about or unpacking for yourself? Like, what are your thoughts there around societal messages that you've internalized?
I think procrastination sort of feeds into the productivity myth that we always sort of need to be busy and productive, and that sometimes we sort of mask really getting crystal clear on what we want and where we want to be, and we sort of layer in procrastination over that because we're taking in lots of messages around to be successful is to be productive. To be productive is to be busy. To be busy is to be over busy. And then it just sort of like tips the scale. And then procrastination just sort of sits underneath all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, over like a hyper productivity is pretty pervasive. Anybody else feel guilty if they rest a little bit sometimes? Yeah. I have a lot of clients who even are really good at resting, but we're working on them just being okay with the fact that they need to sleep more or rest more. Like instead of trying to not sleep as much, like that's not something everybody embraces very easily.
Well, it's almost like there's this finite balance between, I recall that quote about, or not quote, but the idea that, time is something that you never get back, and you can't be a poor steward of your time, or, you can't be a sloth, and why put off today or put off to tomorrow what you can do today, and those kind of quotes. And then, but it's like, I don't know, you look at our society, which is a capitalist society, and we're like, go, 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 do, 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 do. But you look at societies like Europe, other cultures where they take, all the vacation in the summer and months of vacation and hours in the middle of the day to close down their shops to just chill, the
Mhm.
siesta, and they
Mhm.
seem to have a more quality of life, and they enjoy their lives.
Quality,
So
enjoyment.
is that
Oof.
procrastination, or, it's just there's this fine balance between wasting time and being productive and finding that perfect sweet spot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question that maybe we can ask ourselves. Is this procrastination or am I just resting?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of people consider that, am I procrastinating or am I just like relaxing my body for a minute, letting the inspiration find a way to me? What did you draw, Nikki, on your monster?
My procrastination slug has a box on his back. Oh, has a box on his back.
Mm,
And I guess I associate procrastination with a lot of negative emotions.
mhm,
And he's just trudging through with shame, anxiety, guilt, low energy, fear, wasted time, frustration, and sugar. I put sugar in there because sugar is emotion related, and I tend to want to get a
yeah.
sugary snacky snack.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing and bringing up that word shame, because I think it is a monster in the room when we're talking about procrastination. Can you talk a little bit more about that shame, Nikki?
Yeah, well, it makes, like, even being a remote worker, um, sometimes I'll drop my son off from school or drop him off to school and then come back, and I have all these things I have on my to-do list, and I will get back in the bed and sleep a little later. But there's shame attached to that. I did it today. There's
Mhm,
shame attached, like, if they only knew, you know, that, you didn't start at the top of the morning. I'm a night person, first of all, let's say that.
mhm,
A night person. I like to work when I feel the motivation to work. If there's no pressing deadline, I like to work when I feel like I'm fresh and I feel like I'm, zesty, And so that shame comes like, oh, you didn't start at the top of the morning.
mhm,
You bad person. And
mhm,
and is that really the truth? I guess I have to ask myself, is that really the truth? When the shame comes up,
mhm,
speaking to me in my ear, is that really the truth? Am I really bad because I don't start at 8 o'clock,
mhm.
8:30, But that's where mine comes in at.
Yeah. Do you guys also experience some shame around it sometimes, or have you in the past?
I think I'd say guilt rather than shame.
Mhm,
Like I feel guilty if I'm not productive. Um, and what's really interesting is we get so programmed, like in when we work in corporates, to like work 9 to 5. So yeah, if you don't start at 9, like, oh God, you know, and even now, like I have my own business and I can work whatever hours I want, but there's still this like weird, I didn't start till 10 o'clock, or oh, I took 3 hours off in the middle of the day because actually I'm not great in the middle of the day. Like, so it's really hard to unprogram yourself, even when you've got the choice to.
I agree. I mean, I think this is a big topic, especially if, you know, for people out there who are like freelancers or, you know, just living a more non-traditional life, creative life. Like I worked in schools for a long time. Nikki, you've done that too, where you're at school at like 7:30 a.m., you
Right.
know? And so when I first started working for myself, it felt so hard not to feel bad about not getting up at 5:30 a.m., even though nothing in me wants to be up at 5:30 ever. Ever, ever, ever. I don't want to be up at that time. Like it just doesn't feel good. I'm not active. And even when I get up, I don't want to talk to anybody for a couple hours. Like I really just want to be in my own introverted, reflective, kind of find whatever feels good kind of space. But I would say it took years to unprogram that from my body. And Michelle, I know this is kind of still a new transition for you, right? Like you were very much in. So where are you at with that?
It's a very intentional choice, like every day, to be able to sort of unhook from that, from initially feeling like, but I need to spend 40 hours sitting here in front of my computer a week because that's what I used to do. I'm recognizing that, productivity comes in a lot of different ways. And I love what you were, sort of the trajectory of this conversation this morning, for example, we had a 2-hour school delay. So it was, felt like lunchtime by the time I actually was able to sit down and do anything that was productive. Yet had a lovely morning with my family at home, and that's
Mm.
great too. So being able to sort of lean into those, like sort of flip it and be in that moment and recognizing that, um, you know, I get to define what productivity looks like. And I don't need to frame the way that this morning, sort of went as procrastination, as keeping me from doing what it is that I want to do, because it's really about the overall, sort of life design and being able to find that flexibility, that feels good.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, I have like really amazing ideas in the shower after I've sat on the couch for an hour. Like I can plan my whole day in like 10 minutes, but it wouldn't happen that way if I just jumped to it. Like it would be harder. The rest of my day would be harder. And it is harder when I don't allow myself the space to have some freedom and slowness in the morning. I think a lot of us creatives, I know kids can dampen a little bit this, but like we kind of come alive at night. I don't know. The thoughts I have around that are have to do actually with this topic too. Like nobody expects anything from me at that time. So it's easier to let go of expectations or the shoulds. I'm not, in my brain, the program is that the workday is done, so I can do whatever I want. And like, those are the kinds of thoughts that really send creativity soaring for me. And the question is always like, how can I allow myself to be in that space at any time? Right. Like, and also just honor when I feel more creative. If I want to be up later, I'll be up later. If I want to sleep in, I sleep in. I mean, there's a lot of challenges working for yourself. You might as well take some of the benefits, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So a question, a word you were saying, Michelle, is inspiring me for the next doodle, which is like this framing, right? So let's do a doodle. I'm encouraging to draw, first of all, doodle a fun frame. Just doodle a fun frame. All right, let's start there for a second, and then I'm going to add to it. So just a 30-second, don't overthink this. And as you're doodling this frame, I want you to contemplate this question. And when you feel ready, you can start doodling about it. But the question I want you to contemplate for a minute is, what's one thing that's actually productive that others might, or your idea of others might not think is productive, might see as maybe procrastination. But for you, if you're really looking at it and reframing it, it's pretty productive. So when you have that idea of what that could be, you can doodle that inside this frame, because we're going to reframe it in that way for you. Yes. All right, Nikki. I love the chuckle. Can you go first?
I don't even know. I don't even know if I got the gist of what I was supposed to be drawing, but I just thought about my sugary coffee time.
Yes.
It often bunny trails into scrolling Instagram. Then I have to check Facebook. Then I have to check email. Then let's just check spam, and it's just all this looking. Like I'm using this sugary coffee time to just, it's like a blanket. It's like a, baby blanket of comfort. And I
Mhm.
just don't have to think, but
Mhm.
I'm just looking and taking in a bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
So if I could reframe that, maybe
Yeah.
I get my day started quicker.
Or even like, um, even reframing it as like, like inspiration. It depends on, how we're looking on things. Like, one of the things, I don't like to necessarily just make social media out to be a bad thing, because I don't think it can be. Like, I think how we curate our stuff can be very inspiring.
Mhm.
Like I read like 50 inspirational quotes a morning, probably just scrolling, like, or seeing artwork I like, or seeing cool things that people have done. Like, I wonder if it's even just the reframing of exactly what you're doing, seeing how it's helping you, or even just the time where you don't have to think, like allowing yourself a little time not to think and not feel bad about it could be a lovely
Right.
reframe.
Mhm.
Um, like, you never know. I mean, that's the crazy thing about creativity, right? Is it's like we never, it's kind of magical. Our brain will just take pieces of things at different times, and we don't know when it's taking that piece. It's just capturing the information, and then all of a sudden you're over here the next day or 5 weeks later, and suddenly it's like, that's the thing, I'm going to smash it into there, and now it's going to work for you, or that's the missing link, or so I
Right, the
wonder if it's,
inspiration.
yeah, like I wonder if
Yeah.
it's a reframe of like inspiration time for you, what that
Take
does.
that. I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, we all need our downtime, and that's when the brain really integrates too, is when you're not on, like when you're not trying to figure things out, but when you're just chilling. And it's interesting you said blanket, because you drew your procrastination creature as a blanket. Like, so even reframing, because I like how you said comfort, like I don't, comfort can be seen as like, oh, I'm in my comfort zone. This is real bad, or it could also be like a very emotionally regulating process. Like, I'm
Yeah.
regulating myself so that I'm ready, or I'm preparing, for
Mhm.
what's
Mhm.
next.
I like that.
Those are good. That's juicy. What came up for you guys? What are you reframing? What's your reframe look like?
Mine's this. This is me in my bed having a real good afternoon nap.
Yes.
Because actually, I think sometimes I procrastinate because I don't have the energy.
Mm-hmm.
A nap fills me with energy, and I know that I'm better at 4 o'clock. So, like, why bother wasting my time between 2 and 4 when I could be sleeping?
Yeah. I think this is a big thing. Like when we're so ingrained with there's a certain way to do things, like schedule your day, we can really not trust our own creative process sometimes. Like our self-trust gets eroded. And what happens when we start trusting ourselves and what we need a little bit more? Like, at 4 o'clock, you're more like, all right, I'm on, let's do this thing. I know at 4 o'clock, I'm like, I'm shutting down for a while. I don't want to do anything. Right. But there's nothing wrong with either way. It's just the way we know we work. I like it. And I
Yeah,
love how these, go ahead.
I know that like 4 till 7 in the evening, I could get twice as much done as I could like if I did it 1 till 5, for example. So
That's so good to know about yourself. It's just so good to know when you feel energized and when you feel like you can get, because we're also programmed to think that you have to work for 8 hours. Right? Like that's the only way you're going to get enough done. And so you might be like just taking boxes and taking names for 3 hours and do more than, an average corporate person does at their desk. No wonder you're tired. Like take a break. Like we have no water cooler to stand around when you're working for yourself at home for a while, right? Like
I like that reframe. That helps shift my thinking because a lot of times I don't do a full 8 hours but I'll get a big old chunk of things done. So I like that.
What I hear in both of those are awareness and intention. I'm really like, being aware of when, you're most energized to do work, being aware of what feels good. Like, does the map feel good? I've got a coffee cup in mine too. Is that something that's like really helpful, and not having it just be sort of like mundane, you forget about it, but that like awareness and then intentionality that it's meaningful, and claiming that is, I think, really powerful.
I like it too. Being able I think when we become aware and then we look at it through the eyes of intention, we can really sort of stave off the voices a lot easier, right? And even like external voices, because it might show up in your, like, I don't know, I've had plenty of people be like, wait, you're not starting work till 10, and it triggers that little voice in me that's going, you're not starting work till 10, and I have to be like, that's right, I'm not starting work till 10, like, but yeah, it's like if I have a lot of intention, I know why I'm doing it that way, then it allows me to sort of those things to come in. I might feel the trigger for a second, but then be like, take a deep breath. Okay, no, it's my process, right? I'm going to stand true in my process. What's your reframe look like, Michelle?
Well, I was going to say, just and then pulling back from that, it's like, have you truly not started work until 10, or did you not sit at your computer ready to take a meeting until 10?
Bing,
Because
bing, bing,
all
bing.
of that preparation work that you've done, the slow morning, the enjoying, maybe it's being outside, maybe it is a nice conversation, whatever it might be, is part of your
Yes.
like is part of the work. Like it all gets to be included. And so I think it's like, to sort of quiet the voice of somebody who says, well, I'm expecting that you have a meeting that you're on and having a meeting with me at X time. Um, it's sort of like, no, I've designed this. Like, it's not that I haven't worked, it's that I haven't made myself available to you.
I think you said a really key word that I really want to emphasize, which is preparation. Like,
Mhm.
when I start thinking about how to prepare myself for things, it changes a lot and it helps my expectations. Like, if you're ever feeling like, oh, I should be, I'm an artist. Why am I not coming home and painting after I just worked 8 hours? well, your brain really, your body, your mind, your heart, your soul isn't really prepared for it. It's on this mode. What do you need to do to prepare for that? And maybe, you need to go for a walk or just sit outside or I don't know, eat a nice meal. Like what prepares you to do some creativity? Because I know a lot of folks out there are juggling that, right? You're juggling the job maybe you have to do to pay some bills, or even, you like doing it, but it's still a different mindset than if you want to sit down and paint, or if you want to write, some poetry or create music. Like those are still can be different parts of your brain. And I love that word, like preparation. I think that's what I do for like 2 hours before I have my meetings is prepare, like getting myself ready for it. So thanks for mentioning that.
Can I
What do
say something real quick?
Yeah, yeah.
That just reminded me of one of the things I think, let me try to figure out how to put this all into words, but you were talking about preparing to be creative. It's different when you're doing it because you feel, and here I go back to the emotion again, when you feel like and motivated, or you're motivated and inspired to be creative. But it's another thing when that's your profession and you have to be creative on demand. And it's like, how do you, when you're not feeling it,
Mm-hmm.
We can tend to want to just sit
Let
and
it go.
procrastinate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Until we're waiting for the feeling to come.
Mhm.
But it's like, oh man, how do we move past the emotion and just do it? Where
Yeah.
it from?
I think that's such a good question because we are so driven by inspiration and feeling things, and that naturally moves us into creating. There's a quote that I'm not going to get quite right, but you'll get the gist of it, that has always really inspired me around this. It's written by Robert Andre in his, I think it's called The Spirit of Art book. And it says, the intention is not to make art, but to um, make your space so that art is inevitable, or something around those lines, like create everything around you that makes art inevitable. So I think about like, okay, what makes art inevitable? Okay, I'm going to keep my markers in front of my face. I'm going to have, like for me, doodling is very accessible, whereas like a painting, sometimes I'm like, oh, what's next? It seems so much more. So what are like easy ways to kind of be creative? Or, I have my poetry books or my books around me that I like to read, or I think about my music or my smells. If my mind is in a whack spot, maybe I need to go like move my body for a little bit before I do it, or rest, or
Yeah.
but those are some of the things I think about, because I have that. Like I have to make art sometimes to get my paycheck. So like I cannot depend on my feelings sometimes.
And what I hear in that is that you have a toolkit. And I think sometimes it's important to create the toolkit and to I love the idea of making things really accessible physically in your space. And also, some of the things you mentioned might not be exactly physical, but even if it's just kind of creating like a post it note or a list on your phone or something that basically says, when I'm not feeling it, here's,
Mhm.
here are 5 things I could try to do to see if that, moves me into that space, just so that it's like, what Karen, I think you just so described so well. It's like it's making it be easy and super obvious, when I think so often, I mean, that's why like I had my brain in the box, right? Where you're just sort of like, I can't,
Can access that part of my brain to figure it out. Yeah.
but when you're feeling that exciting energy, or again, creating that awareness around, a particular, maybe it's like a particular type of walk that you've done that, really does sort of allow you to move into a different space, and remembering that that's like the super special walk for when you're feeling really, closed in
Yeah,
or something.
I love that, just making it really obvious, because when we're in a funk, we're not our most cognitively present, right? Like it's not like we're in problem solving mode. We're in a funk. Like that's where we are. We don't access our higher level thinking there. My favorite example of this, I probably say it every other podcast. It comes up somehow, but I just love it so much. The poet Mary Oliver, like she gets her inspiration from nature, and she's passed, but she has a lot of nature. And so she sprinkled pencils all over her land, so that while she's walking, if she gets an idea, there's usually a pencil nearby, and she always has a pad of paper on her. And so she just kind of like scribbles it in there before it goes away. So it's sort of like that, like, how do you make it really easy for yourself to kind of almost fall into it? Like, like,
Mhm.
it's such a good question. It's such a good, juicy question. Cause I think it's even with the work I want to make, right? Like my paintings. Well, I want to make most of the work that I do, but like for myself, like my own kind of paintings, they're like this morning, I was like, after a week, last week, I was just every morning I was painting on it. And then this morning I was just staring, and I was starting to get into that mode of like, you're gonna not work on this. And this isn't, you said you were gonna work on this in the morning. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, okay, pause. Like, I just honestly don't know what to do next with it. I'm in an impasse. Maybe if I doodle for a little bit about something completely unrelated. I didn't get my answer for what's next, but I enjoyed doodling way more than being mean to myself about my painting. And I'm gonna trust that the idea will come, right? So,
Mhm.
oh, so many.
Knowing when it's time to pivot.
Yeah, pivot. Well, even the thought came up was like, I think I need to start another painting. Sometimes we need that question goes back to Michelle. You said, what do I need more of? Sometimes I need another painting sometimes to bounce the ideas and inspiration from. We didn't get to see your reframe yet, though, Michelle. I
All
need to
right,
see
here
your
we go.
reframe. Yes. Oh my
Ooh.
gosh. These frames are amazing in and of themselves. Have you guys noticed how cool everybody's frame was when we went into this prompt?
So mine also has a warm beverage, coffee most likely, and then a book. And the reframe here is that I've been spending a lot more time reading, and not just reading business oriented professional development books, but really just books for enjoyment, and allowing that to not just be, the 10 minutes before I go to sleep, but to be able to, kind of sprinkle in throughout my day. And it brings a lot of joy, and it honestly brings a lot of new ideas. So I've got a workshop I've been developing along this line, and it wouldn't have sort of come if I hadn't been able to really get into other people's stories. So,
Mm-hmm. And I love that too, because I'm privy to this information, but I know that workshop came from a novel. It wasn't even like, you know, a self-development book per se, but when we really allow ourselves to indulge in the things that bring us joy, how much like fertile ground are we creating, And look at those colors that are like erupting from that space. It looks like a sunrise, like your ideas
yeah, or
are
sunset,
rising.
sort of either sunrise, sunset, because it can happen any time of day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. It's so funny because I definitely have a beverage in mine as well. Mine has a little beverage. Here, hold on 1 second. Yeah, it's already small, so let me spotlight. Um, but yeah, I just want to like the couch is such a lovely place, right? Can we reframe the couch sometimes? I think it's one of those easy go-tos of like you're being lazy because you're just sitting on the couch. Um, but I really, really enjoy sitting on the couch in the morning. I didn't draw it because I don't know, the juxtaposition in this frame would have been funky, but my couch actually has this amazing corner in it that like I just like my whole body fits into, and I get in there with my cats and I just love it. Sometimes, I'm doing things that people might see as more productive. Like I could be checking my email or like reading a self-development book. And sometimes I'm not. Like this morning, I just was like, nope, not gonna. And I'm glad I didn't. Right. And this afternoon, I took a 20-minute nap in that corner and it was fabulous. It's probably the only reason I'm making sense with any words right now. So So these reframes, you guys, these frames alone are so powerful. Like I just love can we all just hold up the frames for a second? I'm in love with the frames themselves. Look at those frames. It's almost a powerful exercise in and of itself, right? Just like drawing the frame differently. And then how does that make you think about the thing? Because you can't draw a frame like that and then put something in there that just feels awful. Like I can't anyway. So, one thing that I want to end with, I think, is a powerful, practice of having a guiding question. Some of them are percolating in our conversations, but I think we're getting some ideas around, okay, this is what we think procrastination looks like. Maybe these are things we could reframe about that might make all this feel a little like, might ironically enough make procrastination productive. And when you're in a tough spot, right? When we're in this tough spot with procrastination, I think it could be helpful to have a question that you can ask yourself. Like you could have it on a piece of paper, big on your screen, or somewhere where you see it, like we are talking about earlier, making it obvious. So I'm going to invite you just to kind of go within for a second. I might even color on my reframe for a few minutes. And as you color, contemplate what that question might be for you. All right. So I would love for you all to share the questions that are coming up for you as offerings to our audience. Maybe they're great questions for people who don't know yet that they could try on. It might be a springboard for other questions that come up for them, but let's put our ideas out there. What questions coming up for you, Nikki?
The main question was, what do I need today in this moment to feel motivated, to get the task done, to feel inspired? And then some ones that trickled off of that was, is it time to pivot? What task or feeling am I afraid of or really trying to avoid? Do I need a different routine? How can I block my time to prepare and ensure that I do the task? How can I break it down into bite-sized pieces so I'm not overwhelmed? And, do I just need a nap?
Yeah.
Nap to get my energy level up.
I hear such a good combination of like emotional care and like practical things, which I think is really wise and true. Sometimes it's our emotions that really need something. Usually, I think there might be some skills that block you from the doing, but that comes back to that question too. Like, what do I need? It could be a skill-based thing, but oftentimes it's even the emotions around the skills that we need that causes, I just feel like so much procrastination comes back to emotion. So I appreciate that question.
Yep.
What about you, Kat? What questions are coming up for you?
So I have one question, which is kind of started at the beginning. So it's for like in the moment procrastination. So if this procrastination is a messenger, what is the message it's delivering to me?
I love that. Oh, I feel like we need to give our monsters some speech bubbles in a second. We might have to end with a speech bubble asking that question. Oh, beautiful. Oh, I love it. It's such a sweet little fairy showing itself for you. I like it. What question or questions have come up for you, Michelle?
Two. The first one is, what do I need more of?
Mm.
The second one is, what makes it easy?
Yeah, I like both of those. Like what do I need more of can sound so intriguing and counterintuitive because a lot of times the first thing we're like, take more of my plate. That's too much, you know. But for a lot of times it's more inspiration or more sleep or more like, yeah, and making it easy. So three kind of things came up for me when I was thinking about it. Uh, do I need to remember my big why? Do I need to trust myself? Or do I need to just figure out the next small thing? And I think those are for different reasons, for the different ways that procrastination shows up for me. One is my ideas can get crazy and I forget, oh, my biggest purpose and why that I'm focusing on right now is over here. So sometimes that just helps me to realign to that. Getting off track and not trusting myself and my process happens, and that could cause a lot of procrastination. And then like you were speaking to, Nikki, sometimes, and Michelle, with the easy part, like sometimes the thing is huge and I haven't figured out what this next little piece is. So like, what do I gotta do there for it, right? Okay, let's end. I would love to give our monsters speech bubbles and asking them that little question, whatever questions came up for you, ask them that question and let's see what they say. Or pick one of the questions if you had a couple. Whatever one resonates when you look at your monster, right? I have to flip back to mine.
So my question, like I say, is for like in the moment of procrastination. So I'm
Mhm.
not procrastinating anything right now, so it doesn't have an answer. What it did have was an approach to take when I'm in that position. So, like pause, ask the question, truly listen for a response, be curious, dig deeper, and ask again.
I love that dig deeper, especially, right? Like pausing, like not necessarily believing the first thing that comes up is
Yeah.
really huge, right? We used to have this practice in one of my positions, that we would ask the why when something wasn't done as expected. And then part of it was actually calling BS. We'd be like, okay, that's the BS answer. What's the real answer? Right? Like sometimes we give ourselves the BS answer first. So, well, really good. I love that. What did yours say, Michelle?
Mine said to make a list. To
Mm-hmm.
really get down to the small list, the small steps.
Yeah, sometimes we really just need that practical thing. And the list can really show up as like a brain dump even too. Like just dump it out, right? Like brain dump it out. And then maybe you'll be able to see what is the emotional and what's the practical and all that stuff. Or maybe it's just really practical and it's very simple and you can move on with your day. That's always nice to discover when that happens. How about you, Nikki?
Mine was a combo of make a decision and do what feels true.
Mm. Oh, decision making. Have you guys got time for another hour? That's a whole nother podcast. Can we But it does show up that way, right? Procrastination can show up feeling very indecisive.
Mhm.
Um, I just got so intrigued by that response. I forget what the second part of your answer was.
Do what feels true.
Oh, do what feels true. I feel like that's a good practice to figure out for yourself too, is like, how do you feel into what is true? Where does that show up for you? Usually that's somewhere deeper in my body and not in my head. Like usually that's somewhere like my solar plexus or even my heart, but not my head. The head is like indecisive city.
Yeah.
That's
But it
like,
just reminded me of the shame piece and just not receiving that as, oh, you're doing something bad because you took a nap in the morning, or you're doing something bad because
mhm.
you're walking through TJ Maxx instead of getting work done.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I just think there's a lot to be said for being that curious, that going deeper, that gentleness with ourselves. Um, Even if you truly are, whatever it means, procrastinating, that can never be a harmful practice. That's only going to give you more answers, right? Mine just simply said, pay attention to me.
Mm.
Like, pay attention. It's got a lot of eyes on it. I don't know if you guys saw that in My Little Monster, but it has eyes everywhere. So it's seeing me a lot. So I think it wants to be seen and responds. That's what came up. So I hope that everybody who is listening, that there's a lot here that you can walk away with and think about and reframe and play with. I hope you can bring the spirit of Doodle with you and let it just be a surprising part of your journey. Let procrastination be a part of the flow that's teaching you things. Enjoying those surprises that show up. I think we certainly got to experience a little bit of all of that. So thank you, Nikki, Michelle, and Kat, for sharing all that you have today and showing up to doodle with me. Awesome doodles. Awesome doodles. We might have to capture some of those. You might have to send them over. In the meantime, you guys, I'm going to put all of their information in the show notes below so that you can connect with them and on all of their interesting work. And you can find out more about my offerings at howdoodle.com, including my weekly Creative Goals Working Circle, in which you can get some inspiration, some support, and some time to actually work towards your goals. I hope that you continue on Creative Soul with your creative journey, and I'm wishing you so much peace in that process, even when procrastination hits. Take care, everyone.